again, everyone. We're back with another fantastic debate. Number 6. Hasn't been that many so far. That's what happens when you do like 2 a week for at least the last couple weeks or so. Very excited for this one. The HEX debate. We got 2 guys who come on the channel from time to time and they spit facts, opinions, and everything in between. I'm excited to get into it. Ehex versus PHEX. I'm going to jump in the middle of this a lot of times too. And feel free to get your questions in the chat. Please be respectful during these debates. Sometimes you're respectful and sometimes you're not, chat. So feel free to pop it off, but in the most respectful way possible that you can channel within yourself to make this a very educational and very fun and very exciting debate. Oh, without further ado, welcome back to the show, to the arena, Axis Live and Dipcatcher. How's it going, gents?
What's going on?
Back again.
Here we go.
Are you still muted? You keep saying you're muted for the chat.
I've been muted from your chat for, I think one of your mods, probably Bristology. I hacked Bristology's YouTube. His last search was sour Skittle reviews. I was like, what the fuck is he doing?
Wow. That's not Hex related.
We need more information.
That I understand.
Yeah,
I thought for sure he was gonna be a Sour Patch Kids guy, but
I know, sour Skittle reviews.
Dipcatcher not to be censored.
There's food dye in those
Twitter,
brands.
the X. So we've outlawed it. I think somebody banned it. Somebody banned red dye.
Red 40.
Red 40. Yeah, it sounds like a bad thing when you say it like that, but I'm not sure. Could be not nutrition advice. We don't do any advice on this channel, by the way.
They need to slap an SEC lawsuit on the fucking Skittles manufacturer right away.
Yeah,
Richard Hart sues Skittles. Yeah, I could see that counter. Could be fun. Could be fun.
What's up, Nick? See you in the chat, man. Creative Crypto. That was an awesome show last night with those guys. Go check that out if you hadn't.
Shout out to Creative Crypto guys, Broke Boy and Crypto Ewok. They actually stream and they talk about the Hex token and PulseChain. And
Briz, why is my ink down? I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Briz, turn the ink knob. Can you turn the farms? Can we turn the inflation back up, or is that not a good idea? I'm not sure actually at this point.
Keep it down for now, I think. Let's let this stuff kind of flush through the system.
I like it.
Alcoholic says Dipcatcher's X-Pulse have been cracking me up lately.
I need to catch up on it. I know you have a lot of depth. Some people say spicy takes, some people say bearish takes, some people say factual based claims. What do you think? I want to start off that real quick too before we get into the different topics. What do you think in the future that could change? Is there something that you think you might be wrong about? Like, what is the most likely that you could be wrong about, that you're gonna be like, this happened?
I mean, I don't know if even wrong is right. It's because I think what I say is sometimes kind of painful and jarring to people is that I'll simply repeat words that were said, or I'll simply cite numbers in a spreadsheet. And so it's not like, people like, present FUD that's just like, oh, this is bad. Like, it's like, I'll literally just state what was said. I'll repeat what was said and I'll cite numbers. And so it's like, I think that's why people get so sensitive, is because they know that there's a deep truth to it. And a lot of people don't want, they either come on Twitter wanting a cheerleader to tell them that they're going to get rich next week, or they are themselves the cheerleaders who see just like the social media audience opportunity of telling people they're going to get rich in a week. And so like,
I think it's 2 more months, by the way. I think the rally call is 2 more months. I've heard.
Yeah. So like I don't fit into either of those kind of use cases for social media. And I think that's why there's the general sensitivity around it. And I love whenever there's something that it just like blows, like this whole 3-minute workout thing, like that is so like that was like sent from above as a gift, because like just that is an idea is just so funny to double down on, even though it's actually fine advice. Like most people, maybe you don't even work out 3 minutes.
Yeah, better than 0, right?
Yeah,
but
like
still the bare minimum, right?
And sometimes like
I'll
do like a 20-minute workout for me, like that's plenty. And so like I truly do value the idea of a short form workout. It's just funny to just see everything
quality
about
content.
Really fun.
Quality content.
Yeah. So
especially after getting sick on day 6 or whatever, it's like okay.
Couldn't crank out. Very precise. He's very precise with that. Yeah, he's very much detailed on the workouts. So you don't read into the numbers on that. You don't think it's there's some code in there with all the numbers, and talked about leverage or something too. No conspiracy there.
No.
Some post point. Access, you've been what has been your sentiment too? Because yeah, definitely
on which specifically
on let's just call it the ecosystem. We'll get into Hex here in a second, but the ecosystem in general.
PulseChain?
Yeah. What and,
Well,
and is there anything you
my
agree with
sentiment
that
is
draw?
based on all my sentiment on this ecosystem is based on what ETH is doing. So if ETH is going to be looking good to go, then I'm more bullish on Pulse. I don't think Pulse is at a point in its life cycle right now where it can live and breathe on its own. Our demand will come when ETH is performing. So with that in mind, I keep an eye on the Pulse ETH chart, and it's held the lows for I don't know how many days now. Let's see. Let me just do a quick draw here. It's held the lows for like 390 days. So I mean, like as long as that continues, I mean, we just seem to be flat for a while, and then once ETH starts to move, then I mean, I already feel pretty good about the ecosystem as a whole from the perspective of the OA moves really kind of rebalanced the overhang of supply on Inc and Hex, both of the hexes, and so that is going to have a lag effect on like the long-term growth potential of the chain. I like that. I think that was one of the biggest things that really shocked everybody. And we can, as we get into the next conversation, we can look into some charts on like what staking behavior looks like now and what circulating supply looks like now that that move has been made. Because what you're seeing is users are pulling out and they're not staking anymore, which is good because then that means that when prices do start to perform, that circulating supply is just going to get churned and redistributed over and over and over again until there's hopefully just a bigger user base.
So I got a question about framing the performance of PulseChain around ETH itself, almost like as if it's some type of kind of leverage on ETH, where like it might have amplified upside, but also may have amplified downside. Like, what number would you give that to it? Like, how many X leverage is it equivalent? Like to like say, is it 2 to 1?
I was going to say like 4x. So like basically, if ETH does 4x, we should do 16x. And why do I come to that conclusion? I don't know. It's very much my intuition.
Then why not just enter a 4x long on ETH instead of holding PLS, for instance?
You can do that too. But there's also altcoins that sits on top of PulseChain that have done millions of % returns. Mm-hmm. Lots of them, dozens of them. And so like that's just a different way to play the game over here. So you could pick your poison. Like some people don't like to trade alts. Some people like to just stick with the big dogs, and that might be a good play for a lot of people because a lot of people that were originally just hex stakers, like they didn't have any frame of reference, like of how to actually interact with the blockchain and do things and move around and trade. And you know, it's a shame because the messaging was so off in the last cycle from some of the biggest talking heads on in Hex about just stake it till you make it. And that may end up being true on a longer time frame, but up till now, those guys have gotten beat out by everybody else who played the game, right? I think Richard once said, like, the game can't be shut off, and that's great. And I think like a lot of the value in PulseChain comes back down to the root core fundamentals of what made Bitcoin valuable in the beginning, which was a censorship resistant, cross-border, online, 24/7, 365, like just the simple metrics of what makes blockchains valuable. That's what makes this one valuable, and it's ultra cheap, affordable to put positions on an LP, and you could take risks and try new things because it's so affordable to use PulseChain over something like ETH. But to your original point, why don't people just 4x long ETH? Well, why they can. That's an option, right? I wouldn't taboo that.
Yeah, I guess because I asked that because like when I hear people say that it's all based on ETH's performance, like ETH itself is inherently less risky. And so if like the bet is that something less risky is going to go up and then we're going to go up by some extra degree more, then like that exact premise can be captured in a less risky, more liquid way. And so like that's why I don't like, I think ETH is part of it. It may be a big part of it. But the thing that's going to, because like outside, like we've seen the 08 take action with basically cutting inflation. And I think honestly, like that has been an obvious thing that it needed to be done for years. They even knew it, like around big payday, that to a degree they cut inflation. I think that big payday like that is a major problem. Like he tried to cut it with the big wave of 3-day stakes. Honestly, what the staking activity that we saw a couple months ago, that should have happened on November 18th, 2020. Because the big problem with the HEX inflation isn't so much the daily incremental inflation. It's every day a big payday stake is ending that has more and more T-shares than the last one. And so there's like a big wave of big payday stakes that have that big lump sum payout. And so the OA, honestly, I think that he took those action because he was preparing a spicy tweet to tell Vitalik to cut inflation. I don't think he even really was thinking about it until then, honestly. I think that it was really to support a tweet point, because early on, like that was kind of the main premise of the narrative was it was like a really high yield thing. And you can't have high yield thing in like a self-contained system unless there's high inflation. And so I don't know what I think that
it was like the behavior of the HEX staker class in 2020 and 2021 actually made HEX deflationary because there was coins being absorbed and staked for a long time.
Yeah, and that's what the OA should have matched, because the big problem was just having like the majority of the supply in an address that is not absorbing its own inflation. Is that like the user-owned inflation has always been around 75%. And so like having that big OA lump sum reduce that, it just caused like all the inflation to be going to users, and it's the users who are trading, and it's the users who are in liquidity pools. And so the inflation as a percent of the user-owned supply, or the inflation as a measure of the amount of coins that are in the liquidity pool, which really matters in terms of its like baseline default price, that has always been quite high. So that's kind of been the downside of just like basically having all those coins is like a vanity metric thing. Because like the only action that they can take, people have said that the OA needed the majority of the supply to take some action in case needed. Like the only action they could take would be to reduce the inflation that it itself is causing. So just not having those coins in the first place would have had equal impact. So like there never really was a reason for that, other than maybe like paper control, right? Value of market cap, but control to do what?
I think the biggest argument I remember is like if JP Morgan comes in, or some big well entity comes in and wants to manipulate the system in some way, there's always someone with more supply who can.
But how could, what does having, the only thing that actually having that supply is you can threaten to kill the thing by dumping it forever, or you can cut rates once, basically for 15 years. You can do one major rate cut per 15-year cycle.
So the inverse of that would be to protect it from dumping and to.
But it doesn't protect it from dumping, because like anyone else having absorbed supply, like if all you have is the supply, that doesn't protect dumping. Because you're talking
about specifically in this, so the viewers know, it's because the price actually appreciates, right? In an environment where HEX appreciates, then that inflation becomes a problem. Mm-hmm. But in a down only environment, that inflation isn't as big of a problem. But if we want to go up,
no, I think it's backwards, right? It's inflation's not.
It is
the high inflation isn't a problem when there's a lot of demand that can counteract it, but it's an
we're not
problem.
All the moves that have come on upside on HEX in the last 2 and 3 years weren't because of huge demand. It was because of price manipulation.
Yeah, which I think he's learned now. There's been like, at least in my mind, there may be others to a smaller scale. There was the big selling early 2020 or big buying early 2024, where like I think 30 million or so, or 20 million, I don't know how much, was bridged and used to buy coins. And then there was actually, right after the sacrifice, about like $6 million of USDC was put in on the buy side V3 position, I think at 3 or 6 cents. And
I remember that very, very clearly.
And that got absolutely eaten through.
Well, there was a whole period of time around mainnet launch that was in play. And then after
price moved through it a number of times. It's earned a lot of yields actually, but it sits in, now it's actually a big buy wall that sits there, $6 million buy wall. Because I don't think, last time I looked, it was probably 8 months ago, it was still there. So numerous times, millions of dollars of funds have been deployed, and the net result is just basically loss of funds. Like all it did was reward the people selling into it. And it didn't it didn't, really do anything. So that's part of why I don't necessarily think that like big moves are going to happen with those funds, because it's not authentic demand and it's finite. And I think that it's proven numerous times to be a waste of funds. So hopefully they get deployed in a different way that can kind of amplify the value of the ecosystem. But I don't like, when I think about future sources of demand, I'm not thinking about just like basically subsidized price through the sacrifice funds.
Oh, Max has dropped for a second. Just back to the OA real quick too. Why he's coming back. So yeah, not directly, because it's not like you can buy HEX with the HEX, right? You just have a bunch of HEX, unless there was like ETH or something else come in to support the price and stop dumping all that. But I mean, the one is like the deterrent of like, okay, they know if somebody does start dumping, somebody comes in, has a lot of HEX, starts dumping a lot, OA could retaliate, could discourage, stuff like that. So it's kind of like a check.
How would they retaliate? Sell before them?
Yeah. I'm trying to think about.
I mean, is that like
something
like
that?
That's what I mean. Is it like there's truly net, like, and anyone selling that's not manipulating, or like all sales are valid, including OA. There's not like every single. That's what fungibility means, is that every coin is the same, and they can all be sold, and all coins are at the discretion of whoever knows the private key. Like if you possess the key, like they're entirely at your discretion. And so like, because like if your example of like JP Morgan coming in and like, okay, for where are they going to get the HEX from? They have to buy it. Okay, good. It's theirs. And so like they can sell. And then the only solution is you need the OA to have the majority of the supply, so it could like front run them selling.
Well,
like that doesn't.
Yeah.
It's
not a very strong argument.
Like the only lever that in a system like HEX, the only lever that the OA has with OA, I include the majority of its supply actually comes from the recycled ETH. Like there was about 12,000 ETH that was rotating in every day, and you would go out to an exchange, bounce around some exchange address, come in through fresh addresses that all followed the same thing. It's like a script, so you can tell which ones they were, and that's where the majority of their supply came from, was just the initial first year issuance. And so
but what about the liquidity pools though? Like the OA having that much HEX could have a lot of influence of the liquidity pool. And
yeah, so it could add its coins to the HEX to a liquidity pool, which basically is selling them. If your coins are in a liquidity pool, they are listed for sale. Someone can come and buy them from you without you.
There's got to be some strategies there to make it to again protect the price from dumping on the liquidity though too. Especially if it's paired with other stables or ETH or something.
But the only way to do that would be to be selling. Like again, if like we're talking only about HEX, not about inbound ETH or inbound other funds. If like the HEX on its own, the only thing that it can do is sell the coins or use it to set rates, but that is something you like can only do to the max once every 15 years. Because
there's also the staking though. What if, a lot of people speculated, what if this staking move could later be emergency instaked and then reward a bunch of stakers with the HEX too? So it can technically give people more coins in a way.
That would think about it. So before the staking happened, it was 6 HEX per T share. So then after staking happened, then it was like 1 HEX per T share or something. So now, and 90 or whatever % of that daily yield is now being absorbed into the OA, and it early end stakes. What happens? I know. I want to see if you know what happens.
Sorry, I was messing access for a second. Can you say that again real quick?
So what all the yield that used to go to user stakes, but for the last 2 months has now gone to the OA. Like what if it was to emerging stake, like what is that equivalent to is what I'm asking. Like
what is equivalent to the OA emerging
from a user-owned inflation perspective, or like a user-owned yield perspective? Like if those stakes were just emergency ended, Like
Well,
it's
there would be
basically as
less-
if the stake. Well, it's basically as if the stake had never happened, because now that all that like reduced yield has
Yeah.
now been fully and more canceled out. So like it would increase the inflation, and if that was if that was designed to cut inflation, early end staking that is simply amplifying inflation to like a dangerous degree, like the problem that it was before, it's like way worse. And so users,
definitely inflation would go
all
up.
stakers getting more HEX units is pointless. Like it's because like
I think there's some strategies there. I think so. Yeah, for
because all that does is make the price just go down. Even if like your paper value of your whole position goes down, now it's just like slashed value across the board. Because
let's play it out real quick though. Let's say that in 2 months prices start going up. Inflation has been down. It's really low right now. 2 or 3 months and prices start going nuts. We get a 10x, 20x, and HEX, whatever. And then always like, all right, cool. I'm going to reward the long-term people. I'm going to reward the stakers, whatever. Merchant stakes like one of them or something. Inflation goes up to, I don't know, 5% or whatever it is. Again, sorry if like instead of 1 HEX per T-share, it's 3 or 4 or 5, closer than what it was. And then all this on paper value, you have a ton of HEX sitting there, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm pretty happy about that. I'm glad I staked. How is that not, kind of like the benevolent moves? Hey, for a while, I can adjust monetary policy.
That would not.
Okay, but explain why.
Because that's converting. So HEX that belong to the OA, that's basically never been for sale. Okay, like can we agree that that coins that Richard holds, although you can call the AA selling the HEX and you can call the sacrifice selling the Pulse, but like assuming he already is in possession of the coins, those coins have really never been sold.
Yeah.
So it stakes its HEX for 15 years and then full nukes it. So half the penalty goes back to itself, half that penalty goes back out. So all those T-shares, I mean, except, well, its own T-shares will absorb a lot of them, but the amount that is emitted to the holders, that is the HEX that originally was basically not for sale ever, is now getting distributed to people that do sell actively because they're active users that they bought. The majority of that goes to people who bought HEX between December 15th of 2019 and February 1st of 2020. Like the people who bought then absorb most of it. Huge class of sellers are those early buyers because they're still in profit. And so that's basically transferring HEX that used to be not for sale directly to a very active group of sellers. A person who staked starting last month, they'd get nothing, but their value would just be slashed. So like, there's really like, if Richard was trying to increase the sell pressure of HEX, then like directly, it's effectively giving that HEX to that cohort of late 2019 to early 2021 or 2019 to early 2020 stakers. And so it's like directly funneling funds from a non-sellable state into a highly sellable state. And so like,
I don't know if it's highly sellable because we don't know when their stakes are ending either.
Yeah, we do.
Their stakes are ending. Well, yeah, I mean, we know, but like you're assuming, it sounds like the argument is, okay, as soon as that, like when that happens, now there's a ton of sell pressure coming. It sounds like immediately, but I don't think it's immediately. It's over when the stakes end. And that's assuming you're going to sell.
So what that means is that every day gets worse because every day that goes by, there is a pre-big payday staker who got at a very low price, and then they staked over the course of time, and longer pays better. So like more T-shares per HEX staked, the longer and longer. And so if the more T-shares absorb more of it, it's the same as big payday. It's the same exact problem. It's that like big payday was allocated per T-share. And so like, so far, like every stake from that time where they got in at a low price and they got in at T-share rate 3 times lower than now, like that class of users just absorbing that amount, and it becomes emitted every day. And every day that goes by, there's a longer stake that got more T-shares. And so like
why is that a bad thing? That's what I'm saying. The assumption seems to be like they're all going to sell it.
It doesn't do anything except, well, it doesn't, like just giving people more units. If everyone's units are relatively growing together then it's like you can your piece of the pie isn't necessarily growing by that much, because
but what if it's done what if it's done during an uptrend? Like what if it is like literally it happens and then price goes up, people are less incentivized to sell, a lot of them are staked for longer periods of time, they can't sell. Like I don't see how it immediately turns into sell pressure, and it's not. Why wouldn't that be the better? Because imagine all the stakers being so happy that, oh my god, I just got like 50%.
Because
more
here's why. Because the market prices these things in, and the market is always pricing in, like, you know, just by the kind of collective consciousness of the market. It's pricing in like how much HEX is coming in the market in the coming weeks, months, years, and what happened. So like as is, the market isn't really pricing that in as a reality. But if suddenly it did, that would be the market having under indexed the amount of inflation that's going to happen. And so to like make up for it, like when the market overestimates something, it has like a drastic reversal. If it underestimates something, it's a big reversal. So that would be a major underestimation of how the market was pricing in that future inflation.
But it could
come to roost.
I mean, again, that's the FOMO part, though, right? The market could just be like, we don't care. Things are going great right now.
Well, yeah, but are they?
I'm saying if it happened during a time,
I know, but what's the probability that like that does?
HEX went to 55 cents. It happened.
I know. So like right now, like what is the like your over the next year? Because like I was looking, I like this cohort of stakes that I'm referring to. I have pulled up here on a site that Golke made for analyzing this stuff. So there was 1.1 billion HEX staked in between December 15th through February 3rd. They have 219,000 T shares, and those are stakes that were still active that end between now and a year from now. So like, you know, a billion HEX principal, I think it's like been now like HEX ending this year earning like 3 to 1, you know, so 3 billion HEX that has not been active for, you know, basically since the start is now coming to market. Plus, you know, all the yield it's earned. Now imagine all of those ones suddenly getting, say, 2 times more. Like right now, it's like very clear how much is coming out, but then suddenly a stake was ended, and now that like there's basically a second big payday, and that even further gives an advantage to those people because their share rate was 3 times lower than a staker that started now. So like,
well, what happened the last big payday that the OA tried to avoid that? Didn't you say something?
The OA tried to basically halfway cancel, or like undo big payday, and they did it by staking all the HEX for like 3 days. So day before they staked it all.
Did that happen again?
Well, that did happen, but now that those coins are staked for 15 years, so they're already staked. And so like, but why would the OA like stake it? It would be add more T shares in order to undo. Like, no. So what I'm saying is that like all that to say that the only thing you can do is toggle rates, and you can do it once. And any early end staking to like boost yield on paper is like, I mean, if he did, I honestly, like, I wouldn't put it past him to do something just stupid like that. But like, I really don't think, because he certainly understands that like the problem is inflation. And if you were to stake and then early end stake to give people a little boost that does nothing for them, because everyone's piece of the pie stays the same. Like, cool, now you have more units, but then like the guy whose stake ends like tomorrow basically benefits the most because you.
But he was staked. I think that's.
But your stake that ends tomorrow versus like, say I have a stake that ends in 2 years, you have a stake that ends tomorrow, and suddenly you get like, we both get like a big lump sum boost. I still can't claim mine until my stake ends, but you can claim yours tomorrow. So it's basically just giving like free inflation to a small group of users. And so it just does nothing. A group of users that like bought in 2019. So like there's no benefit, only downside. And you just measure the like T-share holders ending soon.
So what happens if, so like you said, the things are, the stakes are laddered out. What is the idea? Like if you were the OA, what is your thinking? You're like, no more HEX yield. Like, is that the product now? Like what is the idea?
I mean,
benevolent idea.
Well, I think that, I mean, it's just very clear that like the high yield is, I mean, what it does is it increases the threshold for like the ecosystem like to grow, and like because the annualized yield from the perspective of the user. So like, the max yield is 3.69%, but if that's only applied to the 12% of supply that's owned by users, and before the staking, all that inflation was going to users, 3.69, maybe, and you have to discount because it's kind of a delayed thing, but also you kind of undiscount because we're now experiencing the delayed inflation from the first 5 years is now like, so it kind of cancels out that delaying of inflation. Around 15 years, it'll be equal of old inflation canceling out kind of delayed current inflation. So like, a little less than 3.69%, but that's like just, multiply 3.69% or divide 3.69% by the percent of user on HEX. That's the real inflation. It's about 12%. And so like, that means that the HEX ecosystem has to grow. And that's only HEX. And that's not, doesn't count like the other sources of kind of inflation from Pulse and PulseX, but just like, that means that HEX itself, the size of the buy side on the liquidity pool needs to grow by 12% annually to keep up with that user-owned inflation. And so that's a really difficult thing to do. We've only done that for a window of time between 2020 and 2021. Has there been positive growth? There was about 9 months of, we call it a year. There's about a year of truly positive growth. And then there's been 4 years of negative growth. And so like that as like the top line thing, just slashing inflation makes it easier to achieve that. It makes the impact of having negative growth less, and it makes it easier to reach that threshold in the future. But that has a delayed effect because the majority of the inflation problem is inflation that was already issued. They're all already allocated. So that was big payday and all the yield that had been earned by those pre-big payday stakes from launch until a couple months ago. So like it has an effect long term, but it doesn't solve the big inflation as of the first couple of years. And like the major one is big payday like that. I think I listened back to a stream from Kyle, and he said that they spent too much time working on the Bitcoin free claim piece, and the size of big payday, like the percent inflation, like low participation on Bitcoin free claim means high big payday inflation because big payday came from unclaimed coins. And so he said they spent way too much time for way too little participation, and that low participation rate caused really high inflation from big payday. It gets worse every day. There's no solving it now. And so like that's probably the biggest thing that impacts it. And so, all he could do would be to try to just like shift that baseline down, but like it didn't necessarily solve the like big problem that we'll face until 2035. And gets really bad at year 2030 and really bad at year 2035. So,
but after that, it's
over. Well, just imagine there was a HEX tenthening when like the daily inflation rate was cut after big payday. It's just like all the like AA supply being issued, that suddenly stopped, and the inflation rate was cut in, by about 1/10. And that actually helped the big 2021 run, is that there was like big inbound demand and a massive cut in inflation. This latest one was kind of more of a halving, or about a sixth inning, maybe, if it went from like 6 HEX per T share to what is it now?
It's got to be around 1.5 or something.
Yeah, so maybe a fourth inning of that daily yield, but that's really for daily yield that's issued now. It doesn't really cancel out the yield that had been issued but hadn't been realized yet. And so now, so like there was a cut in inflation, but it's kind of a more gradual one. Once the last of the pre-big payday stakes ends, then that is like the true, well, that's like the first major cut. Then there's another major cut just over the next 15-year cycle, because like every stake that was to end, that was pre-big payday half of their big payday thing goes into a penalty that gets distributed across all new stakers. So every early end stake kind of extends the time frame when big payday inflation is realized, but it extends it out over a new 15-year period. And so like every kind of 15 years where you reach that boundary is kind of like a big like inflation reduction on average. And so the big one is in 2035. So
can we start burning HEX? Like, what is a way to make this, like, make the lower inflation without further monetary policy changes?
So the solution that I've talked to on Twitter, he's S-Load Maximalist about this concept. We've been talking about this concept for years now. Probably the only solution is to incentivize early end staking. If you had some type of protocol that had enough value that incentivized people who had pre-big payday stakes to suddenly basically cut their stake.
Wouldn't the price go into $2? Do that?
Yeah, so things like that could, because like if you lose your big pay, I think the big payday stakes, like at about now, the big payday payout was equal to the principal, just from like some end stakes I've looked at lately. I'd have to check.
Like 100%, right?
Yeah. So, and well, so if you look at there's a site that I made, earlyendstake.anvil.app. That actually is an early end stake calculator that you can paste in your address and see how much you get if you're early end staked. So one, just promoting your early end stake value as your liquid value, I think would do that too. Like even without any protocol, but just like making it more clear on the actual realizable value of your HEX stake. Because one way to think about it is that when you time lock your HEX, because the rule of thumb is that once you get halfway through, you can get your principal back. So one way to think about it would be, it's like if your stake is halfway through, like every day you're earning real yield, you can cash out at any time. And so once you're in that second part of the stake, so I think just like surfacing that information and further encouraging people to early end stake, and if there's like a way to incentivize them to do that helps to solve it, because that will clear out that big source of inflation that's highly problematic.
That might be one of the most bullish things I've heard all day.
Yeah,
like,
and
I feel like the founder and everyone else the founder and everyone else has this aligned incentive to make the price go up, because the price goes up, not only can they sell at a higher price, and encourages people to early end stake and reducing inflation and making a more healthy system and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. I mean, like, yeah, that's the that's the single big lever that remains. Because I mean, the OA staking cut inflation starting, like, that was issued as of whenever that happened. I think in April or March or whenever. But like the first 5 years, like that's the source that like directly impacts, because like think about the user, like think about that user and like the psychology of that user. If you bought early, you watched massive paper value, highly marked up, and then you've only seen it go back down to, like, I mean, stakes ending now, if you bought in that very low, it's like you're still up like 10 to 30x, maybe even more. I'd have to look, but those users, so there's a couple hundred to a couple thousand users who are still up a lot, and they went through the whole psychological experience of like showing their staker app to their wife or their mom and like, oh, look at all this money we have, like, oh, like it'll come out in 2026, like, oh yeah, we're gonna buy a house, we're gonna do this, like we're gonna do all, like, so there's that psychology, so that psychographic, and then there's also the people that got in like 2021, they believed all the narratives. They believed that Richard, I think in your words, he's a founder, genius, billionaire.
Genius billionaire founder. Yes, that
genius word. Billionaire founder. Yeah. And so they bought into that. They staked, like, okay, I'll stake for 5 years. And by then PulseChain will be out and we'll be millionaires. And high yield, and so like those are that's the predominant source of HEX stakes ending in the next couple of years. And so like what do and their inflation was problematic, at least the pre-big payday ones. And so like there needs to be a big catalyst to counteract that. And so
let's talk about the different options. So we have, one is price go up so much that encourages early in stake. Another, which you mentioned initially, was a protocol that would, I imagine you were alluding to, that would provide some sort of value to be like, no, I want to give my HEX, I want to end my stake and trade my HEX for this, or if I end my stake, I'll get this much for doing it, or some kind of like value exchange there, where I'm like, I like this other thing that I can now sell in some way. A protocol, price go up. What are the options there for that to happen?
Yeah, so that, like, I mean, price going up, that's always hard to predict, because that's like, you know, like you can't predict when or why people would buy. But like, to dig more into like a protocol that might burn it, you know, that could possibly be something where you mint a coin and the amount you can mint is based on the amount of penalties that you paid. And maybe there'd be, or you know, maybe it's a coin that can only be minted by, like, if you want to really dial into the problem, you just make a coin that is mintable to people that have stakes that started before big payday that are still active, and ending them early. And then the amount of your penalty is like how much you can. So maybe something like that, you know, but it's hard to. Yeah. Like basically you'd log your stake list to the contract, and then you would end your stake, and then you have to log it, because like the ending of stake, you can't do that during another contract call, because it needs to come from your address. But, or maybe with 7702, there would be a way to do this in once. It would be 2 steps, but like to add the code and execute it. But basically you just submit a proof to the contract that that yesterday you had a stake that was from pre-big payday that was scheduled to end, and you nuked it. And then you can mint the coin, but then you have to drive demand to that coin. And like, maybe that's like something that, honestly, that would be a highly effective source of, like, if the OA was to use funds, if the OA just put out like a bounty that said, if you early end stake your pre-big payday stakes, and you'll get this reward that may be worth more than the HEX is currently worth on paper, but like less than like something, you know, that honestly could be
and people say you're bearish. Why we're coming up with some super bullish solutions right now? It's pretty good.
No one who's smart says I'm bearish. It's people that need validation and need a cheerleader. Like that's the people who don't need a cheerleader and who are thinking of solutions, they don't actually think I'm bearish. And me presenting solutions is not bearish, or framing problems.
I like it. I'm bullish as fuck right now. Yeah. Like bullish at AF, if chat can't tell. Like that's really good. I think we took the emergency end stake argument, which you had super good points on, and been like, okay, if that's not a good idea, what does make sense? And I think that's something. Yeah, could we see community build protocols on that? Will Dipcatcher go and build a protocol on that after the stream? We don't know. He tends to build a lot of stuff.
I have a contract that kind of does that, but I mean, it's like a lot more would go into it than that. But yeah, I mean, that's the, you know, one solution. Versology, I see in the comments, was talking about that he's upset RH should get rid of everything on PulseChain and only focus on Ehex. Like, that's actually the ultimate, that's like the true final solution to the PulseChain problem, is honestly returning to Roost and driving all energy towards HEX on Ethereum.
Well,
that's actually the solution.
Let me tell you why that's like very unlikely and improbable, and like probably like will never happen. You already know, but I'm just going to call it out here too. We kind of talked about it during FlexNet. everybody's on PulseChain train. Like there's plenty of hardcore Hexicans who wish PulseChain didn't exist because they think that it hurt the price, and maybe it did in all these different ways and stuff too. But dude, literally, the market decided to tweet. It's you're betting against the founder. I said in the previous debate, uphill battle, right? How in the world, if anyone's going to, if you're going to believe, if you think the coin is going to grow and thrive and survive and do all these things, when it has a charismatic leader at the head of it, again, we'll see if he comes back and all this stuff too. Going,
we'll see. Yeah, such charisma.
Going against that, well, he works out a lot. He works out.
Yeah, such charisma. Tweeting on average half a time a day.
He's had some interesting tweets lately. He said a couple. He gave us the 2 more months thing. There's that. But literally, like, can you imagine a future where Richard's like, you know what, PulseChain, we tried. Let's go back to Ehex. Like, it's just never going to happen, right?
Let's think, because if he's serious about winning, he would, but he may not be serious about winning.
Why would he be serious about winning? His whole thing is glory. Is that not?
Name. Okay, since PulseChain launched, name like what are his top 5 actions that he's taken? I'll name 2. So slashing rates, yes, for both Hex and Ink. I'd say pump tires. That's like a good start. Name the 3 other, like Richard Hart and the SEC thing. So there I've given you 3. Yeah. So
those are 3 great ones. I mean, I would say just not leaving is one. Like he stopped streaming.
You just said maybe he'll come back.
Maybe. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not guaranteed. Maybe he'll come back like as our number one marketer. He has a better number one marketer.
It's not like a major move. Like I'm talking about like big.
You don't think Richard coming back streaming is not a major move?
No, but things that have happened since PulseChain launched till today.
Well, that
already happened. Like what are the top 5 moves? I've given 3.
Okay. I mean, we could talk about different upgrades and stuff.
Like what?
I mean, PulseX definitely looks a lot different. A lot of people want more stuff, but it definitely looks a lot different than the first version.
That's not a major move.
Stables, they got stable swap. I mean, we could talk about all the different pieces added, but I know you're looking for like some.
That's what I mean. Is it like if the premise is betting on the
market decided? Well, he started funneling more people into PulseChain, or more on the decisive PX side, I guess you'd say.
I know, but for no benefit. It only has downsides.
Somebody said he taught me about Interpol.
Who said that? I think someone blocked me from the chat because I don't see chats until about 40 minutes ago.
Please don't block Dipcatcher. I don't know how you can talk and chat at the same time either. But anyways,
no, it's probably you should remove. Whatever. No, I actually get a kick out of Versology. He thinks he's on like a moral crusade against me. It's so funny. It's one of the funniest things.
There's good people on both sides of the argument.
How empowered he must feel, like trying to oppose me, and he's the one searching on YouTube sour skittle reviews.
Is that the history? Is that the thing?
Yeah, that's it. That's Versology's last YouTube.
I don't know if we should Google that. I was going to say I should Google that, see what that actually means. I don't know if I want to Google it.
Looking up fruit punch versus a set. I'm just kidding.
I'm glad nobody has mod privileges on StreamYard video.
Somebody should unblock me from the chat so I can see. But yeah, I don't know. That's what I mean. Is it like what my suggestion around like other big solutions to try to drive Hex forward and salvage? Here's my actual solution. Well, I guess let me frame the problem. So PulseX and Pulse had a ton of inbound demand that was absorbed and effectively extracted from the ecosystem. Those users are hurting. That's the majority of people. By far, the majority of people are in those 2 assets. So those people have been getting kicked in the nuts nonstop. So we need to solve that for them. They had really poor economics at the launch. Just the supply imbalance is off, and all the funds.
It's just sacked a lot of money, right?
Yeah, and that didn't stay as buy support. And all of them were at the same price, and there was no price discovery to the correct price. Like
not yet. I just want to preface it. I mean, go ahead. I just want to say, like, all the things we're talking about today, literally in 2 or 3 months. I know it's like, just 2 more weeks. I know, but like literally, this could all one day. I think you're gonna be like, oh my god, that thing I thought would never happen that I criticized Richard for happened, and it's gonna be like glory.
Well, okay.
I just
well,
want to say
I sure hope. But
Yeah.
let me finish.
I sure hopium too. I hopium too.
The people who did the Pulse and the PulseX sacrifice have basically just been getting waxed. They thought it was a low risk thing that they got at a low price, but it was a high risk thing they got at a high price. It's just that's a big problem. Big problem. And so my solution is to, one, get everyone who holds Pulse or PulseX, airdrop them a bunch of Ehex.
They're going to say, give them money back. Airdrop them a bunch of DAI.
Deploy PulseX on Ethereum, but not related to PulseX. Move the buy and burn to Ehex. So you airdrop everyone more value than they currently have on Pulse and PulseX to Ehex. Stop hosting rpc.pulsechain.com. Stop hosting the bridge. Stop hosting everything. The network, I mean, you may run validators that will continue to run the network. Network may still run, but basically just pretend like it never happened. Delete all tweets. The accounts haven't.
This was a real scenario. I thought
no. This is a very real solution. I'm not even kidding you, because all that matters is the people that Pulse and PulseX, they have paper value on those chains. You can give them paper value on Ehex and then redeploy PulseX, call it HEX on Ethereum, buy and burn on Ehex. Now all energy is now concentrated on that one asset. And then we march forward and either act like it didn't happen or state that like all of these learnings about economic, just reframe that as like a positive and then continue marching forward. I guarantee you everyone has better results, because the big issues were there's finite economic energy and the majority of it was removed during the sacrifices. And then now all the users hold PHEX has been drastically negative to Pulse and PulseX. And that's kind of the problem with the copies. Like, Richard only complains about it when it's PI extracting a little bit. What about the huge amount from the copy of HEX on PulseChain that is just a drain, constant drain? And because everyone in the ecosystem shares the liquidity that's on PulseChain, like the HEX stakers from 2019 and 2020 are just draining. It's a big negative externality on PulseChain, because
big old
the majority
getting drained.
The majority of their value is only on PulseChain, because they tried to shift it used to be, maybe 2-to-1. Richard tried to migrate everyone over, and it's just like, no, there's no way you can possibly think that that's like a good thing. And so like now the stakers who didn't contribute anything, they're extracting liquidity, and the people who sacrificed, that group of users that's selling, they contributed liquidity, but it's not in the liquidity pools. It's sitting in ETH. And so and the other group of people contributed HEX that they probably bought very low. That didn't introduce anything of value to PulseChain. So there's the majority of the there's just this huge, and that's why everyone feels the way that they do, because there's a major imbalance in how everyone's cost basis is relative to the liquidity structure. And so truly the solution is to reconsolidate and honor people's Pulse and PulseX values in Ehex. The OA earns so much Ehex from the early stake penalties, and they have stakes that they're coming due. A quarter of the HEX coming out this year from pre-big payday actually is an OA stake. So there's huge amounts of value that the OA could draw from that to make people good on PulseX and Pulse, and just continue driving forward. And that's actually a real solution that doesn't do anyone any wrong, but people are just because they perhaps built their personal brand around PulseChain, they don't want that. But that just shows that they're not interested in winning. They're not interested in glory.
I don't think it's because it built the brands or anything else. Literally, if that happened, it would be super bizarre. But I think a lot of people be like, all right, well, we're going to migrate to doing the HEX.
They absolutely would follow along. The people that just swap it. What's that meme where people swap it, whatever, they swap out the little chip on the head and they start repeating. People would absolutely, if Richard said, all right, guys, we're running it back on Ehex. If you hold Pulse and PulseX, you're going to get your Ehex over there. What we're going to not just shut the bridge off. We're going to use the admin key to yoink all the funds.
We're going to burn the bridge.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Why not make use of the admin key and take all the funds, migrate that to the EHEX pool, airdrop EHEX to the Pulse and PulseX users, and then just carry on forward.
Well, I'm not even saying your scenario isn't logically sound. Like, I know I'm with you on that part. Two big problems. One, like, why would that need, like, I know, like, based on, I think your whole thing is like based on the current state of things, which I get. Like, okay, liquidity is this way, the prices are this way, the marketing is this way, Richard's not streaming this, like, all that's based on today. I get it. It just seems like things, if anything changes for the positive and things get an upward trajectory, the whole thing is like, well, yeah, if this stayed like this forever, we could do that. But if you believe things are going to go up and get better, then they don't need to. PulseChain can
survive. Let me agree that things will get better. Now imagine things getting better, all centered around HEX, or things getting better now just distributed amongst this like big, heavy, like what will have higher impact? Things getting better around a single thing on a single like high value chain, or things getting better on a low value chain, spread thin.
No, you said things get better. It's not gonna be spread thin. And there's gonna be like we already got what, 200.
I know
plus,
what that means.
Whatever
is that, like,
200 plus projects.
Things have to get 10 times better than what they would have been to have that impact. That's what I mean. Is it like, if you're serious about winning, you want the thing that's highest impact, highest leverage, and truly like, and you want to do people right. I mean, like
that's the other argument. Hold on, let me dig into that real quick. The other argument is like, everyone feels like they got like stabbed right now. They're like bleeding. I don't know. Is it just me? Like, do you look at your portfolio every day? Like, man, I wish I had more money. I wish my things were worth more.
Yeah, what's the point of a portfolio? That's the whole point.
I don't do that. I don't like. But like, why? Like, why?
And you're yoked. Not everyone.
I can get a job.
Not everyone. Like, not everyone is you.
No, but my point of that is
I'm only 6'1", dude.
You're bigger than me, I'm pretty sure.
No.
Okay. All right. I misremembered I'm pretty sure you and Gold both stacked. Okay. Anyways, why? But like, the question, like, why do I believe that? I don't think I'm delusional. I don't think I'm naive. I don't think so. I think I'm pretty logical in a lot of different things. I just believe things will be better over time, and I'm willing to wait for it. And I don't think we need a solution right now. Like, I don't think the current state is going to be that way. I do believe things could 10x and 100x and all that stuff too. It's like, why do I care what the price is today? I barely know what the price is. You know when I know what the price is? When I see Pulse say, oh, thing went up or thing went down, I accidentally see the price.
Yeah.
Because I don't care what it is today. So I think a lot of the even coming up with the solutions for you is like, things are this way. I don't know if they're going to get better. Well, I don't know, but you said you believe they will get better. So that's, I don't know if it's congruent there. But, and then here's a solution that is like this massive undertaking of like, everyone in PulseChain's like, I better like HEX now. All the stuff I built, it better have something to do with HEX. Otherwise, the chain's not going to run anymore. Like, that seems very unlikely. I
mean, that's what real solutions mean. Like, and because like that's why because here's been my progression. I mean, I've loved HEX from the start. I've loved HEX. I've been shilling HEX since it was called Bitcoin HEX. Like, truly, I'm one of the first people tweeting about HEX. Basically, me and Dagron and Richard for a while were like the only people on Twitter that talking about HEX crypto.
Before Brett up, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, way before. And so, like, I love HEX. And then leading up to PulseChain, I was excited about a dual chain future for HEX. Like, the world was kind of already moving multi-chain. The premise of the copy with like PulseX, because if you remember how the framing of the PulseX, they said the AMM bot would go and like readjust the liquidity pools, like leading up to that. And because there was so much HEX that was absorbed in the sacrifice, it was all kind of consolidated into the SAC addresses, like what it was, like 250 or 350 billion HEX. Like, all that HEX was absorbed into that. I'm there doing the math, like, okay, like, when this launches, there's going to be a Ehex, PHEX liquidity pool that has 150 billion HEX in it. And it's going to be, and because that is like that represents like 90% of the total supply, then even if 100% of users migrated towards one, the price would only move something like 11%, if I recall my calculation. And so like in my mind, I'm like, okay, like your coins are actually going to double in value because like they're going to be paired with an impossibly thick liquidity pool. It's going to make Ehex and PHEX interchangeable effectively. PulseChain is going to be an extension upon HEX. It's going to like, you know, like so in my mind, like I was all in on this like dual HEX ecosystem. PulseX launches. There's not that, you know, like that because the only time to really make it, well, I guess it did. The only time to actually do that would have been during that like pre-launch 24-hour period. So
well, I said before like, too, if there ever is a HEX 2.0, I don't know if you ever thought about this, but if there is a HEX 2.0, if there's like a new token and it would combine them or make like the cross. Man, I had this idea fleshed out one time, but it's like it would work on both chains basically. It'd be like the interoperability stuff that Alex from Hedron was or maybe is or was working on, that type of thing. If there was a HEX 2.0, is that what you were thinking would happen without the new tech?
Not necessarily like where you're more just like the price of them just sticks together close to 1 to, like it'll oscillate around 1 to 1.
So just liquidity.
Yeah, because if 90% of the supply is sitting in a thick liquidity pool that users don't have enough coins to eat through in either direction, then like there's no like swing trade there to make. All it does is invite you to add more close around the border. And so like that alone could have been a major catalyst for HEX, for PulseChain, because like, you know, that would have like that.
Why
that
is that
was
better?
Like
why is that better than today?
Because now you have two competing assets that share less liquidity now. Like that's with other things. So
that's the case today. So like why I still don't understand, why is that better? Like why is having them pegged 1-to-1 by liquidity better than there being a discount between them?
Because all that does, because like especially for the copies, if you held your copy from before, like in the past, like say it was 1-to-1, that would mean that like if you're extracting value from the ecosystem, half of that value extracted is going to come on Ethereum and half that value extracted is going to come on PulseChain, which is still bootstrapping its liquidity. But now that like the price is now 3-to-1, that means that 75% of the value of your stake is now extraction directly from PulseChain, and 25% of the value is extracted directly from Ethereum. So like,
well, that's just for stakers though. For previous stakers, what about new people coming in? They're not really affected, right?
So, well,
they're just choosing.
Yeah. So in that case, it makes that decision less hard because like I remember, I think it was Tam. She had posted that she had been DCAing into Ehex. Richard tweets it, and then she DM'd him apologizing. Should have been the other way around. Oh. But like
I didn't see that.
I think it was her. Might have been someone else, but I'm pretty certain. And so it's like it puts that like high risk speculative. It puts a high risk speculative question in the user's mind that they now have to not only choose HEX or not, but now choose the right HEX. Like that's it introduces a major risk factor.
Why would they choose Ehex? I mean, it kind of segues into that too. Like, why would they choose Ehex when they got the two? They see the community.
It's on a network that you can actually be certain will be around in 15 years.
Why wouldn't PulseChain be around in 15 years? Like, what is the case against it not being around?
Just like if
But in their mind, even like I know you can come up with like a few different ones, but in a new user's mind, like why would they be like, oh, I don't know if this thing's gonna be around. It's already been around 2 years working. Why wouldn't it be around?
Yeah,
more for a new user?
It's likely to be around, but like it has a non-zero probability of it because it hasn't broken through that like threshold of like too big to go away, basically.
But like what metric is there that shows that it is like weak or like dropping off? Like, I mean, you got all the validators.
The thing to measure is the bridged in stables and bridged in ETH.
It's like 80 million, 60, 80, 90, like it
What was
fluctuates.
its high?
Like,
what was the high?
Good question. 100,
I think
I want to say 100 and a half or something.
Yeah, so
there.
almost twice. So, and
yeah, but we know
that,
like that was the liquidity pool. I mean, even Richard said, feel free to opine on that too. Like he's pull liquidity. Isn't that like, hey, get ready for price go up?
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, like why else would a founder suggest? I don't even know how you said it. Why, just in general, why would any founder suggest there be less liquidity in a place? Why would, and then monetary policy changes happen?
Do you mean with like the ink cut?
Well, the ink cut, but also I thought chat, correct me if I'm wrong too. I thought there was some tweet about that insinuated or could be interpreted as, hey, pull liquidity type of deal. I thought there was something.
I don't remember that.
Or maybe not. Chat. Let me know if that.
Well, I'm blocked from the chat, so I can't see. So
Richard, if you're watching, burner account in the chat and let us know. But sorry, go ahead about why is PulseChain going to die in more than 2 years?
I'm not saying it's going to die, but I'm saying that like if just like the overarching things that like the market prices in, but so like having to choose, that's like it adds an additional risk factor for no benefit. There's no benefit to that at all.
You don't have to choose though. If you're onboarded with PulseChain HEX, then you don't have to.
That is choosing.
No, if you are onboarded directly, it's not like, hey, do you want people to say, hey, go Google HEX and then pick one? No, you're like, here, use these steps to buy HEX, and then you can pick EHEX or PX. But if you pick PX,
so what I'm saying is, so then it comes to the choice that the person onboarding you is making. That's what I mean. So there's a choice to be made there, and there's consequence to being wrong. And so having HEX is like a dual chain interchangeable thing where like if your HEX is below some threshold, then you should be pooling regardless. And pooling HEX should have been built into go.hex.com, like a pooling interface. They don't need to be big pools like the Maximus ones. They can be small. 10 people do a pool is good enough. So like pooling should have been by default. Dual, like the copy, it has just been just a simple extension of itself by means of that liquidity pool.
This hurts the onboarding though. I don't see how people need to make a decision because most people are going to be onboarding people with PX, right? Like maybe not you, but like most people in the community are going to be onboarding people to PX.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is a choice was still made. Their choice to onboard,
but it's not like the new user. They're not really making they're making the choice to do the HEX,
but they bear the consequence of the choice being made wrong on their behalf.
Sure. Yeah, but
and so
either option could be wrong. If they buy EHEX,
I know, but if they were pegged together with an impossibly thick liquidity pool, and now that chance of having bought the HEX that underperforms the other one, now that risk factor is gone because like if the OA subsidized a thick liquidity pool to keep price within plus or minus 10% of one another, then that risk factor is now gone entirely. And so if there's direct on ramps to like just wherever the users are coming from, it's like that's what I mean. Is it like that? So I guess it all goes back to where early on I loved HEX. I've always loved HEX since 2018, 2019. I've loved HEX. And then when PulseChain was about to come out, I was all in on this like dual, like look at my tweets about like a dual chain, like HEX is a dual chain asset, like all publishing in depth 2021 through 2023. I was talking about that. And then that doesn't happen. And then it's like, okay, like they're now competing with each other. And then the whole market has decided thing.
I don't think they're even competing. They're just kind of like,
they absolutely are.
There's an option.
They add, everything is competition.
Yeah, but
on
the spectrum,
they're competing assets. They're entirely competing assets.
I think they're, okay, the way I look at them is, hey, one is more risky than the other. I'm going to say EHEX is more, actually, it's not even more risky. I think of it as one, I think is going to be more supported and more X's and stuff than the other.
Yeah.
Even Richard said maybe EHEX gets a free ride up. Like it's not like it's going to zero.
But they're competing, and that's right. So I went from like just desiring this multi-chain to liking both, because I still like them. I have more value on PHEX than EHEX, mainly because of staking that I have no control over. But then now, because I
do this, I'll be all in EHEX. Would you, real quick though, if you could snap your fingers and change all your PHEX to EHEX, would you do it?
Yeah, for sure.
Because you think it's less risk. You think there's more X's. Like why?
Because it's least impacted by kind of systemic
Founder.
problems that are native to PulseChain. It's like
So the whole,
it's highly
big
effective,
crux,
but it's the least effective.
But the big crux of it is you just don't trust Richard. So
No,
like,
I trust Richard. I actually have very high levels of trust in him. But I'm not counting on him to be ultra high performing, because that's a tough thing to do. Like, being high performing in general is hard.
So you don't trust that he won't give up on PulseChain? Like, you think he could give up on PulseChain?
Even if he didn't give up on PulseChain, driving it to elevated levels of success is highly difficult. So, but all of them are difficult to do, but the one that is least impacted by systemic things that are really related to the sacrifice, and then things that are kind of doubled down on by the copy of HEX from users that gave Richard ETH in 2019. Now their HEX stakes are ending, and the majority of the value is on PulseChain. So they're now directly drawing from value that new PulseChain users have contributed and bridged in. Like, that's a major problem. And so, like, the one that is least affected, while it's still highly affected because they're all intertwined, the one that is least affected by some of these systemic problems in PulseChain is HEX on Ethereum. And that's the core thesis. And so if things get better now, they'll probably get better to a higher degree on the thing that is less impacted by the problems that are needing to be solved. So that's what I'm saying, is that and so that's why I've moved more into the side of Ehex primarily, because it's like you have to look at the problems that must be overcome, which ones are less impacted by them. And that's what Ehex is.
I think you're choosing the ones that less impacted by problems, but also less impacted by
what
if Richard does pull it off? What if
what chain is already getting better? Like what chain has improved over the past 2 years? Well, chain, not talking about things built on the chain like the PulseX front end.
Yeah, PulseX can get better anytime too. We can take the upgrades. That's another open question. Why we haven't been taking upgrades either? Maybe Ethereum is the testnet. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. But it's like
the Ethereum testnet is the testnet. The beacon chain, or just even
not on PulseChain, baby. Hey, I mean, honestly, like there is a logical argument to say that Ethereum can be. We can wait and see how stuff turns down Ethereum. If they're not bullish for price, why do we take them PulseChain? Why isn't that what he's doing?
I mean, that could be it. Also, there may be incompatibilities. Like, if the only major difference that was made was. So what are the big differences that were, what were the changes that were made from ETH to PulseChain? Changing the target block interval to 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
And
just lower starting price so you get cheaper transactions.
Well, the change, what were the changes to the validate? Like, not things related to price, but things like actually network related. Were there some validator rule, like the number of units to validate is
it's just a 10,000x. Yeah, 32 times 10,000x, so 32 million. 32
million. Okay, yeah. So those types of things.
Like a million x, 32 times a million. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like there's a chance that some of the EIP, you'd have to look line by line in the EIPs, because like the Ethereum EIPs are centered around things that are native to Ethereum, and a lot of the EIPs do have to do with the whole validator sequence and like the user experience from the validator's perspective, rules around validation protocol, like, and so and there may be other changes outside of those kind of like obvious changes of like changing a number, but like there may be other changes that were done to support that, or changes, based on so there may be backwards compatibility issues with like where upgrades that were made on Ethereum that are based on the state of Ethereum, that effort to add those may be really high, and a lot of the changes that are made are related to L2 stuff, and that doesn't even come into play because there's not that infrastructure. Like, I don't even think there's blobs on PulseChain. I think PulseChain came before that, or maybe there are after the merge, but like a lot of these EIPs are built upon last year's updates, and they're based on the state of Ethereum, and if like they're those things, so they may not come into play. And
what if they don't? Like what?
And no one, and it's not like there's a lot of, the only activity that if you look at the GitLabs, the only activity, at least that's shown publicly,
It's
is
public
stuff.
though. You know, they got private testing.
I know. So meaning the only stuff that gets shipped to production have been updates to the PulseX and HEX front ends, and like user-facing website stuff. There hasn't been any
new contracts. New contract. I mean, not.
No.
Are we talking about
yeah,
network? Or are we talking about that?
Talking about the network stuff.
Okay.
The GoETH implementation.
Gweth. Yeah.
So, like, there's not. So there may not even be anyone on staff that can implement that, because it's not trivial just to like click a button and say, "Oh, we're like you don't." We don't know. We know that Brett's involved, because I think he's the one pushing this stuff to the PulseX server. But like you know, there may be other people in the only activity I've seen are people leaving that group. So, like,
what activity have you seen them leaving the group?
There was a user. Let's see. If you look at the, I mean, there's 5 members of the group. There used to be 6. Maintainer, developer, owner. So, like,
just one. But do we even know who that person is? It could have just been Richard, himself. Like, just another account.
I don't know.
Could have been any of them.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what I mean. Is it like there's, so like in the last, so 1 month ago, Brett pushed stuff to the PulseX front end. 3 months ago, Brett pushed to branch master on the HEX front end. 4 months ago, PulseX. So the only thing that is, so bridge front end, staking launchpad front end, front end, all the servers. So the stuff so people can download their own. The only updates in the last year have been on the front ends for HEX, PulseX, bridge, validator thing. The last push to PulseChain itself, which is to the Lighthouse Pulse, was June 6, 2024. So over a year ago.
Yeah, but literally tomorrow there could be a bunch of updates.
Yeah,
the whole
could,
thesis
like
is just like it's gone.
That's not. But it's like, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. So like, if this.
But these things happen.
I know, but like we're talking about what is happening and like what the current state, not like the state we wish it was.
I think in anything, if you believe in something, you think it's going to get better over time, you got to think about the future state too. Otherwise, like, for better or for worse, you also have to
consider like the current momentum.
I just don't think the network upgrades are like a big pumpamental like.
They're not. They're not. But it's like they may be a factor in it thriving, or like, Oh,
okay, all right. Let's see if you agree with this. If I were to imagine RH's priorities and all this stuff, he's got a bunch of stuff on there. We've seen him even do the list. I know you've seen the list of like, stablecoin for an exchange I'm making, and Pulse pancake swap and all that stuff before. Remember that list that he did like 3 years ago? I've talked about it a lot.
Yeah, I'm tired of citing his words and stuff from 3 years ago.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
imagine there's another list that's like not that. That's like PulseX upgrades, price go up, ETH price go, like all this stuff, and then somewhere near the bottom there's like get Ethereum's features that don't suck for pumpamentals, or like whatever, or upgrade clients, like whatever it is. It's just not even on the priority list. That's why I think about it. It's like, it's nice to have.
Yeah, maybe like. And there's arguments to be made that it benefits from kind of ossifying, like there are people that like for Bitcoin, I know a lot of they want the network to kind of ossify, and there may be benefits to that,
just like doing V2 versus V3. Like I think the pumpamentals are stronger in V2 for whatever he might think too, and that's why we don't have V3 yet. Yeah, for liquidity. Yeah.
At the expense of the liquidity provider. Like that's,
if the price go up, the liquidity provider would be pretty happy though, right? And there's all these trade-offs.
No.
It's not like this bad decision.
In V2, if price goes up, use the liquidity provider.
Well, yeah, I know.
Slash your gains in half, and then added a little bit of fees. you as
there's incentive token and stuff for that too. But my point is that there are trade-offs. There are trade-offs. It's not like this right or wrong answers. It's just, okay, what is he prioritizing? What are the PulseChain devs prioritizing? I just don't think the network.
At least he's prioritizing his fitness now.
Every day we've been getting updates. Every single day. Every single day. You want the upgrades? I'll tell you what I'm doing, and if I'm sick or healthy and all that stuff too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but all that to say that, like, you know, to me, the thing that's less impacted by it's like all the downside of the general underperformance of the ecosystem, that Hex on Ethereum was the one that experienced the downside from that the most. But it's also least exposed to like kind of like continued underperformance, and it's artificially low due to the tweet. And so it's like, if you look at like the opportunity, and also it's also an opportunity. Look at who you're trading against. You want to counter trade the class of user who is a top buyer. So most of the people that were onboarded into that are like desperate for PulseChain to go up are really PulseX, because PulseX was much larger of a sacrifice than Pulse. And that was because that happened after September. The PulseChain sacrifice was in the summer.
Well,
all time highs were in the fall, and PulseX sacrifice was right after that. So
I think the PulseX people are probably the least loyal to the community too, because they're the people who, FOMO from I missed the PulseChain thing. I'm going to get some of that. I know what PulseChain is.
I view that differently. I think they're the most because they need it the most.
Well, I agree now, but like you could say that the ones,
and there's other dynamics of like there being so many people that basically bought the top there, and because that was the largest, it created like a whole cottage industry of people to create content around PulseX and be bullish on PulseX for the social media points. And so it, like
I'm saying initially, though, like they weren't hex guns. A lot of them weren't hex guns.
So like, but that is a class of user to counter trade. Like that user is the least interested in hex, because they only got into hex because they saw it pump 10,000x and they sacrificed for PulseX because they thought it was going to run it back. And so that is as a category of user, like of all the users available, like who do you want to counter trade? It's probably that group. Like no offense to them personally, but just like as a cohort, like of who, like those are the people that are probably least exposed to Ehex and most exposed. Like if they like Hex at all, they only like Hex on PulseChain because like they didn't come from a time of getting a copy. They probably sacrificed all of it. In Hex they bought would have only been at like 25 cents. And so like that big group of users, like actually a good focus group to kind of counter trade sentiment against. And they're not, basically it's me highly promoting Hex on Ethereum. Because
that's a great segue. I was going to say,
and that's probably stuff. Like, don't you want to be in the thing that only one person's really promoting? That's why Hex went up so much from when I first, like, basically it's kind of the same
love
thing.
Contrarian
in,
stuff,
in 2019, I was one of the few people promoting it. Then when it grew to 100,000 users, the price up 10,000x. So you want to join the things that have a very few number of people betting on it, and a lot of people against it. That was Hex in 2019. And
I don't think that's like a rule though. I think that's like it happens sometimes. I'm full on contrarian stuff. I love Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, if you're watching, you're my guy. I like that guy. But I don't know. I didn't get Facebook stock either. By the way, shout out to all the PulseX out there. Hopefully we're gonna get that 10,000x for you. No joke. I want to get that. I ran the math from all-time low, 9 cents. I'm pretty sure 9 cents.
That's so funny. That's the Nobel Prize in economics goes to Richard for inventing the concept of measuring your ecosystem's price performance from the all-time low wick.
I don't think that's what the prize would go to, but I get the reference.
My Nobel Prize will come from citing ecosystem performance from all-time average. Less exciting, but probably more accurate.
All-time average. I don't know about that. All right.
I think in Hex it's about 6 cents.
Ehex on shit. Okay. So the builders on. So that's another piece. You talk about you're building on Ehex, building on Ethereum based products. Hex on. I mean, for Ehex in particular. why would anyone go and build on Ehex? I know you've laid out a case on this on why you're building on all that stuff too, FlexNet, all those pieces. But just in general, all the builders are on PulseChain who know about Hex, and why would they go and start building on Ehex? Like, why wouldn't PX always have the advantage for builders?
I mean,
and if they didn't, let's say PulseChain failed or something, like back to the previous example, why would they go and start building on Hex? They would just probably not do anything. Just be go Cardano, you know.
I mean, at least to start, it's people with skin in the game or people that perceive opportunity. And so, like, the reason to build on anything or the reason to buy anything is perceived opportunity. And so if there is, that's the only thing that will drive people, is if there's high perceived opportunity. And so the things that I think make Ehex conducive to that are, one, like, the whole ecosystem is getting kicked in the nuts the most. It's been the one that was kicked in the nuts the hardest, the longest, and the deepest. And so, like, there's kind of like a similar phenomena to like Bitcoin getting artificially low after like that plus token thing that caused a bunch of max sell pressure at the bottom of the bear. It's artificially low, then followed by an artificially low period with COVID, like double, slingshot. Solana is artificially low with the FTX thing. It was like slingshot. Ehex has that same type of parameter. So just like this Ehex as an asset growing can be a big incentive driver. And it's least impacted by other things, where it's like, so that's part of it. A kind of culture of supporting build, like it's the main, I mean, if you think about it, like the main reason that people that build on PulseChain is probably because they had skin in the game from sacrifice. But there hasn't necessarily been much support for builders. There is here and there, and it's usually after people kind of point it out. But like, you look at how like Base or Solana like have like teams of professionals who are like there supporting people building on the chain, trying to help them drive successful businesses. It's like the opposite of that on PulseChain. It's active opposition, because everything that you're doing is competition. Like you say in Richard's words about like, when he was half-assed thanking Piteus for having an aggregator after first saying, if you want to,
it's very awkward
support people, like if you want to deprive PulseX of buy and burn and buy coins on another exchange, like I mean that precisely showcases like why like the only people that build on PulseChain are people that have big skin in the game that are trying to crawl out of it, or just like people that, like PulseChain is a conducive place to build because people will use stuff. Like people do take risk. So
but why do you think he said that though? I mean, it's not like he wanted to. Probably this entire time I speculate he liked Piteus, but he's like he wants everything to go through PulseX for the
every dollar you make as the investor, he didn't make.
He wants to burn it. Well, I mean, he'll talk about PulseX.
I know, but like that just showed the culture of like opposition to builders, and then like supporting the builders who will build like a stats website to show his coins. So that's what I mean. It's like it has but like what new, like I don't know of many, maybe there are, because you never know, but like if like the user growth has been negative since launch, then is the builder, I mean, it seems like it's kind of the same, I mean, kind of the same group of people. Like
We've added a lot of builders since PulseChain started, and a lot of them built stuff on Hex too, including yourself and Actuator Protocol and Calm and all this stuff.
I know, but were all those people here before Hex or before PulseChain? I think they mostly were. Like people,
I don't know.
So like people that were already here that became builders, because now it's a lot. The barrier to entry to become a builder is much lower.
But they're not trying to go build on, like, if it's easy, or if they have affinity for Ehex or whatever, yeah, they'll support it too. But it's like all those products, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure they're all PulseChain focused, right? If not exclusively for PulseChain.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do because the majority of the existing user base in the ecosystem is focused on that.
But why wouldn't it always be that way? Like, why would it ever just go back to Ethereum?
I mean, what if prices went? So right now there's, I think Coffee pointed out there's like $11 million of liquid, like of coins in, like, so most of the stables on PulseChain are not in liquidity pairs with PulseX, and HEX. So like if so there's currently 11, I think you said 11 million spread out across those assets. And if those are majority in V2 pools, what happens to price when the amount in one side of the pool doubles?
Is it you're talking about the square?
Yeah. So 4x difference.
Yeah.
So like if the amount of liquid, so if there was suddenly, $44 million of sell pressure, like that drives prices down by another 4x, like assuming no like counteracting buying, but like
but why would that happen?
It's been happening. Like there's sell pressure all the time.
Yeah, like, but if it kept happening, then the price would just be, I mean, yeah, it's way below.
I know.
Now,
So like
way lower.
A decreasing, like, so prices decreasing makes less people want to build and lowers retention. And so, much like price going up increases retention. So it's like,
are you making a case that the PulseChain assets are going to go lower than HEX on Ethereum? Like it's going to always just be like lower?
Well,
because of liquidity,
Ehex is still highly subject to the PulseChain because like the majority of the HEX values was kind of ported over. The market decided that one day to tweet. And so it's highly coupled with it. But it's the only one.
I think the argument's less effective because
it's the only one that can actually break away. It's the only one that can create its own source of inbound demand that it alone benefits from. Because
how could it create that outside of, like, why can't it do anything that PulseChain PX can't do? Why can EX do anything PX can't do?
Well, it can't. Like it's all if things happen, but if the premise is that we can suggest that things are going to get better and things are going to change, then like positive changes made that benefit HEX have a much higher benefit than positive changes that have to lift up the overhead of all the other stuff. It's like the amplified value from like just being less affected or already having been affected. So, and that's kind of what it comes down to. And I think it puts you in a better spot to succeed, being closer to billions of dollars of infrastructure that like Ethereum is financing the whole ecosystem. Right? Like right now, Privy just got acquired by Stripe. Okay. So like that's a major kind of financial rails thing. And I think you can connect to, I don't know if PulseChain was added to Privy. Privy is like highly centered around ETH and all the layer 2. So there's like kind of this like direct, like further financial integration right there. And there's major businesses that are built around like Coinbase and Kraken, like how much of their business comes from Ethereum related stuff. Like, so there's major business interest that has, highly centered around that, where they're paying for ads to onboard people into ETH, not asking the ETH users that they need to do never before seen marketing.
Well, like I don't think it's actually asking that. I mean, what I got from the last tweet was, yeah, of course you do the work, but also
but
he already knows of someone doing the work. Like he already knows the people doing the work. That's the till 2 months thing.
The network. So like that total addressable market, if you're on the chain that has other people financing its growth and development, like you get to benefit from that. And so it's just like that's what I mean, is that like, that's why I've moved more into like where, it's like I obviously hope that the value of my PHEX stakes goes up. And I obviously hope that the PLS that I hold still goes up. But like the thing that to me has the highest chance of way outperforming is the one with the least amount of problems, and that even though it's highly coupled, it's not like directly coupled to major sources of overhead that stem from the PulseX and the Pulse sacrifice. So like and the one that plugs directly into like these billions of dollars of infrastructure that are centered around this premise. So like that to me is the bull case, and it's not even far fetched. Like that's insane. Is it like?
Do you think Ehex will run harder than PX?
Yes.
And do you think more people will be able to cash out their Ehex? Like, what's the liquidity? Liquidity is going to be way thicker on PulseChain, right?
Well, if it runs harder than then it will have thicker, because running means buyers in liquidity pool. And if the Ehex is traded on Ethereum, then that's not coins that are like directly like one step away through an aggregator to like route through. Like if you're selling your PHEX, if you look at the route on Pitius, it's probably also selling a bunch of Pulse. Like if you're, because it splits that up. And so like, and if it's bridged, then it introduces a fee, which like introduces a threshold for how much gets routed through that route. And if I don't know, even know if the aggregators are multi-chain aggregators.
Well, my point is like, so let's say both hexes make a bunch of millionaires. This bull run, this cycle, like whatever, it happens. How many more people do you think can cash out for $1 million? You think it'd be more people on PulseChain cashing out for it?
Well, I think there's going to be well, if it runs harder, that means that there's less people to start. So, I mean, the people cashing out are coming directly from the new users coming in. So like wherever that inbound funds comes from. And at this point, like, it's like, I truly hope that it does, but I'm not counting on that on PulseChain. I'm not. Like, it's a strategic decision. Like if there is a chance, because I still care, I care so much about HEX that I want HEX to succeed, even if nothing else does, because it's what matters. It's the thing that brought us here. It's like, to dust we came, to dust we shall return. It's kind of like that, where like, PulseChain could have been a major catalyst for it, but it's not. And so I care so much about the ecosystem that I'm willing to make sacrifices and hone in on like the thing that really matters. And to me, that's HEX, and that's my preference. Everyone has their own preference. Everyone has their own choice that they're free to make. But like,
well,
I'm not counting on success on PulseChain to drive HEX. PulseChain is a negative externality on HEX. Likewise, HEX is a negative externality on PulseChain. It's like dual negative externality. Like, how can you succeed from that starting point?
It's hard to call negative externality as of today.
It's as of today. Well, but
okay. Again, just go with me. Hopium. One more time. Go with me on the Hopium. Let's say PulseChain does well. Why wouldn't HEX and Ethereum just, it's going to do its thing. It's going to have a little community. People are going to play with it. But HEX will be the premier product on PulseChain. It's never going to be the other way around. How could it ever be that if PulseChain is successful? I know it's a big if. A lot of people believe it's going to, but like in the future, in any amount of time, in 2 months and 2 weeks and 2 years, if PulseChain is around, it's always going to, HEX on PulseChain is always going to have the people, the builders, the liquidity. It's going to have all the things, and there's going to be people such as yourself, maybe still building on HEX on Ethereum, but like it's almost irrelevant if PulseChain is super successful, right? Like, how is it any other way?
I mean, yeah, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. Like, yeah. If
all right, so you believe if PulseChain is successful, you're just betting against it. You're hedging your bet. Not betting against it. You're hedging your bet in case it's not successful.
If PulseChain is successful, then assuming PHEX is also successful, good. And Ehex will also be successful. But if PulseChain is not successful, then PHEX not successful, Ehex will hurt, but at least it has a chance. So like, Ehex benefits from a successful PulseChain, but it isn't fully murdered by a unsuccessful PulseChain. From where it is right now,
I just think it's literally like the most contrarian. It's like the most contrarian bet, though. It's like, but you have so little chance of that happening.
What has happened in the last 2 years that gives you like this feeling that there's like a huge wave of momentum coming?
I would say, I think the better question is what makes me still be up here talking to you after the last 2 years of shit show? I think we're going up.
Yeah, and I hope, and I'm here too. You and me together. we come in from
True.
the same class of you know, RH YouTube
not
channel.
stupid people.
Yeah, no,
stupid people.
you and I are one and the same. But I think that I am like me honing in so much on Ehex. It's more like I want direct solutions, and kind of this like hee-hawing about like, oh, it's gonna get better. Like once, like look at Richard's Telegram. Like look at his vision he cast, his Telegram from 2021 when he's trying to fundraise. Like look what he said. We're gonna have all
Golang
the
developers. We're hiring Golang developers. Yeah.
Blue team, like all this stuff. Like to me, like one, I start from a premise that everything that anyone says to you is a lie. Because like if you encounter information on the internet, it's probably a lie. And so like starting at that premise, like I don't like just like take things as fact. And so that's probably the disconnect there. And like two, like I want direct solutions. Like I want things to amplify what was successful. And HEX was successful. And it was like trying to leverage the success of HEX to try to launch a new network could have been good, but launching a new network is very difficult. And so, it's made even more difficult by having $2 billion. Imagine a $2 billion VC round for a coin that like you talk shit about it. Like you'd say, oh, look at those VC. Like it's the same thing. Like the problem isn't that they're VCs. The problem is that the cost basis is all messed up, and they own a majority of the supply where they're looking to realize a gain. Like that's the problem. Isn't them being VCs. The problem is just like problems with cost basis and market structure, and that's literally exactly the problem that's there. So like it's like
it's a problem. So it's not a problem. Like I said, you're looking at it. You're looking at it right now.
Yeah. What makes a problem not a problem? A solution. And it's like we need
a lot of different solutions though. There's the burn it all down. Postcards. Like let's start postcard solution.
I know, but the burning it all down.
There's a way, and things may happen because either we make them happen, or other people with best interest make them happen, or RH makes them happen. Like whatever it is. So who you think less things are going to happen? Are less things going to happen going forward? You think RH is going to disappear?
Didn't you just say maybe he'll come back?
Well, yeah, there's not 100%. I think he will, but I'm just saying, like, do you think less things will happen going forward? Do you think less updates?
I've said this before when we've talked about like what's the future. I think the current amount is going to continue. I think that's a very fair thing. That's not saying that things are going to get better. It's not saying things are going to get worse.
So we just need to delay gratification until glory.
I know, but like who are the highly effective people in PulseChain? I can think of
how are we measuring it? How are we measuring it?
Being able to execute on big things. The only one I can think of is OX Coast people.
Oh,
like highly effective.
That was a very hard thing. Shout out to them. Like that was
that's what I mean. Like
hard.
I wouldn't even consider myself highly effective. It's more like I know I can build stuff and I know I can think about stuff and do math, but like in terms of like truly highly effective people that are like working to promote to like actually make things happen. Like truly the only highly effective people that I can think of are the Coast people.
I'm sure they appreciate that. Shout out to
like there's application developers and people that build things, but like in terms of like when you're talking about things that are going to be done that drastically improve the state of PulseChain, like who's
out? Think about Alex. Okay, he has been talking about this stuff for like 2 years now, right? He's been talking about all these data science.
I know.
And up until this point, we have nothing. We have nothing new launched other than the original Hedron Alcosa. But a lot of people believe that when that stuff happens, it's going to be amazing. You think he's going to be highly effective once that happens, or do you?
Who is currently being highly effective?
I know, but like we have all these things that are just like
I know
they're right there. They're right there, and it's just like you think you think Alex is just stopping. He's just going to disappear. It's like I don't think so. Like
no, I mean like But what I'm saying is that like if the argument that you're making is that very, truly high these high impact things are going to happen, like yeah, I fucking hope so. And now let's think like who's going to do it.
Our hopes
Like,
together unite.
Who if the only truly highly effective people that I can cite are the coast people. Like,
we're gonna find out within 2 months, I've heard.
Yeah, or like with like that's what I mean. Is it like, to me, it's not a satisfactory answer. Like I don't make my plans around if.
Well, you made your plans around it. You've been waiting. How long did you wait for HEX? How long did you wait for PulseChain? You've been making plans around these things building so far. It's just the last year or two, you're just like, you kind of took the other side of all of the arguments.
I mean, it was all about what, I wasn't making life plans around HEX until it had launched, and it's like I was really into it and excited about it. And then,
but that's why you're still here, because you were like, you believed in it.
Yeah, it's skin of the game, and I believe in the premise, and I believe in the hexagons. So, like, and I mean hexagons, not like basically the hex users before PulseChain was an idea. Like those people are the hexagons, in my opinion. Everyone after that was Pulse, which is entirely different culture, entirely different psychographic. Everything's different. And so,
I've always thought everyone with over a million hex and above, or if you have a 15-year stake, I think there's different ways to measure it. But like, a lot of people,
I mean,
they call hexagons, they don't have
people
hex.
that were, you're just suggesting are just going to get better, and I'm suggesting that
how can they get worse?
It takes.
Okay, but the momentum we have now, we just beat the SEC. I have to remind you, by the way. Pretty good. It's pretty good. And just real quick too, I want to say the last time.
What's the outcome?
The outcome is a lot of good feelings and momentum. There we go. It's the first thing that comes to my mind. I know. But
what's the chat saying? Can you pull some? Because the last chat I see is
look at the chat. We probably shouldn't look at the chat. Yeah, I know. StreamYard is fucked right now. StreamYard is just.
Let's see what
they're mostly good things about you, I think.
No, it's probably if people really upset with me. Let's see. I'm gonna pull it up in an incognito window.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I was gonna say last time I underestimated HEX. It was I remember was it Bidesk? Yeah, Bidesk. Remember it trading on Bidesk, the centralized exchange we had a while back.
Sorry, what?
You remember Bidesk with a centralized exchange we had a long time ago?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I remember it trading. I was like, man, if it will not go above 2 sats. I kept trading. I was like, I was looking at the Bitcoin pair, and I'm gonna have to start trading this thing on the Ethereum pair because I can't.
Yeah, the more decimals higher.
Right. It was so that's the last time I was like, is this thing going to work or not? After that, bro, I'm in. They went 3 sats, 4 sats, 5, 8 sats, 10. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Probably the last time I used centralized exchange for all that stuff too. DeFi, baby.
PulseChain Maxi says, I'm following everyone involved promoting this. Warren Lee says, bumbling, blabbering, blah, blah, blah.
Everyone who showed up for this chat is a detractor of the HEX values or something. I don't know.
Takes everything as a lie. He believed Arch lies enough to invest his money. Well, most of the money was invested in 2019. So it's like back then there wasn't lie. But also there's nothing wrong with a lie on the internet. Like lying is a key piece of humanity and a key piece of zero-sum financial markets. So lies is not really.
You are the most code as law guy I've ever seen, which I highly.
Well, it's not even code as law. It's more just like in a zero-sum financial market, you can't assume that your competitors are going to be truthful. So it's like if someone lies,
lying is part of the game. If
someone lies to you in a financial setting, then like you shouldn't that's an odd thing to expect.
All right, sorry, we got to wrap it up though. I've got
Hex pub because OA was recycling. Right. No, that wasn't why.
I literally have to use YouTube chat to say bye to everyone because it's the StreamYard. Dude, Axis, he showed me a screenshot of status.streamyard.com. It's just like down or something. Google Cloud is down. I don't know. It's like that's why I couldn't come back.
That could be it. That could be it because I had to go to a Safari one, not on Chrome.
So weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing is that I'm focused on direct solutions, and that's what brings me to Ehex. And if you're not focused on direct solutions, then it makes sense that you may not be in that. And most people are not. Most people, like a lot of people, I think, like they've never in their life, they might have never solved the problem or never thought about solving a problem. And so like, if like you start with that, if like you're just like a baseline user, like nothing, there's truly nothing wrong with that. But like, if that's not part of your core, then like you wouldn't think about these things in a problem solving thing. You would probably only think about it like what benefits me directly the most, or what will get me the most points with my little internet buddies. Like so it's like we come from a totally different frame.
Yeah.
Like that's
why a lot of people disagree with you, I think, because you come from this very like specific viewpoint, which again, you're right a lot. You bring up a lot of facts. I think you bring up some opinions too. I think you're bearish in certain ways where I think, okay, that could have been more funny in like a positive way instead of funny in a bearish way, but whatever, it's still funny half the time. But dude, I seriously, I respect your work. I love that you're building a Hex. I love that you love Hex and that is your thing. And anyone go back and watch the FlexNet debate if you want to know my opinion or my position on that one.
Says Dipper's solution: get rid of PulseChain and go back to Ehex. Lame and retarded. Are you describing himself or?
As I said, don't look at the chat, man. you got fans in chat too, I'm sure. A lot of them may be unspoken too. But seriously, man, I appreciate you. And again, regardless if I agree with what you're building or what perspective you have or otherwise, like I'm glad you're here. You can't replace Deep Catcher. You can't. It's cool. So I appreciate you, man.
Thanks. Well, have fun. And thanks everyone for being here. It's a good chat.
We're going to do Rockets Up coming out of here. Scivive and 5555. We are out. I can't end the StreamYard. I can't, literally, I'm clicking the button.
Really?
It's not letting me. It's still live. We're still live. I can't end the stream. So weird. I guess I'll go on YouTube and do it. Hold on. Give me just a second.